Hello, this is the new Fenwick Ash English Longbow available at Kult of Athena, and we're just going to go over real quick how to get it strung and ready for shooting for the first time. This is called a bow stringer, and this is an important part of stringing your bow safely and carefully every time. You notice on the ends of each knock you've got two grooves, one for the bowstring, that's the inside, and the outside one is for the stringer, which goes on each of those grooves. Once they're in there, and you make sure they're in there firmly, the loose end of the string is by your left hand, and you put your hand in the middle of the bow where the maker's mark is. Put your foot on the bow stringer, pull up nice and evenly with your back, and slide the string into the grooves. When you pick it up, check and make sure your brace height is where you left it the last time, and if not, unstring, twist the strings to make it the same way it was. One of the first things you'll find when you buy a new longbow is you'll have to adjust the brace height, because when you get it, the string will not be twisted up ready to shoot. So when you put the string on the first time and you check that brace height, it's going to be very, very low. This is called a fist meal. That's the measurement from the flat of your hand to the tip of your thumb. Mine's 5 3/4 inches. On a longbow, you generally want your brace height to be between 5.5 and 6.5. The reason for that is, when you're to shoot the longbow, if the brace isn't high enough up, it'll miss your bracer on shooting and pound the back of your hand. On top of which, the longbow's not going to function very well and your arrow's not going to fly very far. So what you want to do is, take the string back off again using the same method, free one end of the bowstring, and start twisting it in the direction to make that string tighter. Depending on how bad the brace height is, it could take a little bit of twisting. This one I'm going to twist about 15 times or so. And then we put it back on again and brace it up and check it. This could take 2 or 3 times until you get it to the good height. But that's going to be really important to make your bow safe to shoot and effective to shoot. So it's worth the time to do it right. And the hand goes back in the middle. Put your foot on the bow stringer and string it again. Now we're up to about 5 1/2 inches, which is very acceptable for a longbow. You notice that every one of your longbows has got a mark in the center. That's a maker's mark, but that's also important to know where to put your hand on every bow. Because longbows, though they might look it, are not exactly symmetrical. One limb is always the longer limb, and that's the one that's on the upside when you're shooting. So there you're going to see that the balance point is just a little lower than that mark. That mark is where the arrow goes, your hand goes directly underneath it, just like that. These bows are set up for right-handed shooters, but if you're a lefty, you just simply would reverse that and put the arrow where the mark would be on the other side of the limb. Also worth noting is the string ends here, which look like they're fraying, are not. It's how they're supposed to look. That's the end of the loop coming out right here. You don't ever want to untwist a string to the point you lose these twists right here, because that's what holds your bowstring together. When you're gripping your longbow, you'll see that maker's mark is right above my hand. You're going to set the arrow across that maker's mark and line it up so that the knock is on the string at a right angle from that, or maybe just a little bit above. Never too high and never too low. That's important to keep the limbs bending evenly and avoid having the feathers of the arrow cut your hand as you take the release. Now, drawing a longbow is a little different from drawing a modern bow in that you're using far more of your back muscles than your arm muscles. The draw looks a little more like this. What you're doing with that is you're opening up your big back muscles so you can draw longer and more powerful bows. We've all heard the stories about 150-pound English longbows, and that's how it was done. And by keeping that shoulder low on this side and drawing using your back muscles, you'll be able to draw farther and heavier than you thought you could before.